Just doing the technique analysis as promised. Uh, yeah, worthwhile looking at that checklist that I texted you just to, you know, understand all of the key points of an elite standard technique. As I think I said in the text to you, I've been sort of grappling with what downwind technique is versus what a K1 Olympian technique is, and it seems based on that those links from Greg Barton and Clint Robinson that those guys are aiming for sort of K1 sort of type net technique, even in a downwind scenario. Obviously, probably if it's pretty choppy, thinking of lowering your hands a little bit and probably shortening your catch a little bit, because that's all going to increase your stability. But aiming to do those things if you can. So to understand what those things are, this checklist is the best thing that I've seen. So worthwhile sort of going through that and analysing your own technique compared to these key elements. And in my experience, unless an athlete really engages with what it is to paddle well, they generally struggle to improve that much. So the coach obviously has a role, but I think the more you can engage with a real deep understanding of what it is to paddle well technically and work on that sort of independently, that's sort of the key. The other thing is that it can be quite there's this sort of theoretical aspect of it, but there's also the idea of just understanding water feel and developing that feel of the water rather than sort of the technical or the theoretical. And so that's where the flat water sessions are really useful, because you can really experiment and play around with all of these different cues and drills and so on, and try and develop that sense of what it feels like when the blade's really locked in the water. So yeah, so you can go through that checklist. So here's the Van Coverdon thing. I don't know whether I sent. I'm pretty sure I sent you a link to this. So it's trying to get this working. It's a little bit tricky. So just having a look at him in super slow motion, you can see he's exiting when his hand crosses his hip, and he's obviously got maximum rotation of his trunk, which you can see here. Huge leg drive. His hands up at sort of eye height, and then he maintains that position until he gets into his setup position, where his top hand is higher than his front hand. He's still maintaining all of that rotation until he catches the water. So this is, I think, probably the key thing just from memory. So he's maintaining that trunk rotation. This is actually probably not his best stroke. He does actually derotate a little bit there. But irrespective of that, you can see the blades. He's catching the blade. He's still got really good trunk rotation. He's still got his leg wound up maximally. And then once he hits the water, then he just unleashes that rotation to drive the blade through the water. And you can see that rotation happens through the trunk, but also through his legs. So the basic thing is to get yourself into a good setup position where there's maximal rotation through the trunk, through the legs, good sort of setup position. And the key thing is catching with a reasonably straight elbow and holding that rotation until the blade's fully immersed, or as immersed as it can, as much as you can do that, and then just to unleash that rotation through the pull. So let's have a look at you. I'll try and make it a bit bigger. Can't make it any bigger than that. So the first thing, your posture's actually not too bad. I was going to say your posture's a bit flexed, but you know, I don't think you're wearing a PFD under there. But you know, that we're all sort of not getting old, not getting younger, and so you know, your posture is pretty flexed through here. Your trunk leg posture looks quite good, but yeah, you are pretty flexed through here. So I don't know, I'd have to have a look at your posture in standing from a physio perspective, but ideally you would be a bit straighter through here, but maybe that's just because your posture has, you know, become a bit bent over the years, and that can be hard to reverse unless you really go on a proper program. If I can zoom in a bit, I can't. So let's try and have a look at you in slow motion. So there's, what I was saying before is you've got actually good rotation. So look at your shoulders here. You actually have got a good level of rotation. It's a bit hard to see the knees. Let's have a look at your knees as they're working. Yeah, so you're getting quite good. You can sort of see, it's a bit hard to tell, but you are getting quite good drive through the knees. So you're getting quite good movement happening on the knees. So good trunk rotation, good setup position. Actually looks pretty good. And actually looking at this, if you look at how much you're derotating before the blade hits the water, you probably are derotating. Yeah, so that's the blades just hit the water there, and you can see you have derotated a fair bit. So it actually looks better in slow motion. I haven't looked at this properly. I actually think you're paddling pretty well, to be honest. I think this is just sort of working around the margins, but yeah, if you could hold that rotation a little bit longer until the blade is in the water, that would be good. And my sense is that your legs are derotating as well. Yeah, so you probably can't see it, particularly if you're looking at it on a phone. Yeah, so you've completely derotated your legs. So I don't know whether you can see it there, but your legs are level at that point. They're actually not. They're still. So there's not huge amounts of leg drive there. So your right leg is sort of about here, and your left leg is sort of here. So it's not huge. So yeah, if you could get a little bit more drive through your legs, that'd be good. Look, I find it, because the seats are so deep, I'm actually struggling to rotate myself in the fen, so I'm going to have to sort of work on that. I find it much easier to rotate my hips in the Stella. So yeah, you've got a bit of, so overall a bit more rotation through your hips would be good. And then holding that rotation in your legs. Yeah, so you completely derotated there, and the blade's only just entered the water. And again, you've derotated your trunk, but your trunk's not too bad. So look, I do think this is, to a certain degree, sort of tweaking it, as I said, I reckon you're paddling pretty well. You look a bit more bent on that left elbow, don't you? Yeah, so your left elbow is pretty bent there. You could extend that a little bit more on the left-hand side before to get. So it's all about just getting a little bit more on the catch, a little bit more reach on the catch. You seem. Oh, you're straighter. Oh. Maybe it's about the same. So you could maybe be a little bit more bent, a little bit straighter on the catch. So that's all just sort of strategies to try and get a little bit more on your catch. Rotate a bit more, particularly through your hips and your legs, and try and hold that rotation, which will mean you get a better catch and means your derotation happens through the pull, happens through here, rather than derotating from here to here, because obviously you're losing that rotation, and that means the rotation can't drive the boat forward. And maybe straighten your elbow a little bit more on the catch as well. So all of those things together will just give you a better catch. But it's all sort of working the margins. Now the other thing is, look, you are pretty elbowy. So you're probably bending your elbow a little bit more than what the template recommends. So probably a little bit less elbow on the exit might be good, but again, that's sort of pretty marginal. Oscar's super elbowy if you look at his technical video. And then the final thing is just the guide hand. So here's your guide hand here. And your guide hand should just provide, I know you understand this concept, your guide hand just provides a counter pressure to the pull hand. And so the mistake most paddlers, and myself included to a degree, is you release that guide hand up too early. So if you look at Van Coverden, I'll have to go the other way around. So you can see what he does with his guide hand is he catches, and the guide hand stays reasonably bent through to there. So until the hand gets to the knee, the elbow stays reasonably bent. So you're just basically locking the blade in the water. You can see he's got a bit of a bent elbow on the catch as well, so you don't necessarily have to have it completely straight. The blade's locked in the water, and the guide hand just provides counter pressure without extending until you start the exit, and that's when the elbow starts extending. Let's have a look at on the other side. Catch. So watch that guide hand. So you can see it a bit better on this side. So the elbow just stays bent, and the whole blade and shaft is just locked in and parallel to your shoulders until the hand crosses the knee, and then watch his guide elbow, it starts to extend. And really for him right at the end, it's just there, that's when the elbow starts to extend. So let's have a look at what you're doing with that. So blade's locked in. It's pretty good really. Probably extends a bit earlier than Van Coverden. So your left hand is across your knee there. Yeah, actually it's pretty good. So your guide hand still looks pretty bent, so it is providing a nice counter pressure. So again, I reckon you're actually paddling pretty well. The one thing I will say which contributes to sort of the look of the stroke is that your shoulders are quite elevated, your shoulder blades. So you could possibly try and relax them and bring them down a little bit. Look at your left shoulder. and that's sort of all part of this sort of flex posture through here. So you flexed through here, your posture, and your shoulder blades are a bit hunched up. So you could probably just relax that a little bit. But they're all sort of working, as I said, I actually think your technique looks pretty good. So let's have a look at you on the back. Oh, this is going at 90, so let's see. Now, interesting here, have a look at your boat tilt. So see how you're catching and then the boat tilts to the side of your pull. So that's a sign that you're locking onto the water, really nicely. And a lot of surf lifesaving ski paddlers don't do that. So if you look at, you can see it really nicely on this one. Watch his boat. See how it tilts down towards the side of the pool. Catch, and then the boat tilts. And you can really see the guide hand well on this view as well. So yeah, you're actually doing that, which is good. You can see, I'll show it to you again. So catch, and that boat's tilting towards that side, and then towards the opposite side. So that's a really good indicator that there's a lot that you're doing right, and a lot of surf ski paddlers don't do that. The boat tilts to the opposite side. So let's have a look at you from behind. So you can see that elbow angle. So that's, if you look at the template, they say your elbow shouldn't bend beyond less than 90 degrees. So that's coming up to sort of like 55 degrees. So if you could have that elbow a little bit less bent, that's potentially an area to help. You can also see how your shoulders are a bit elevated, but it's not too bad. So you got nice, one other thing that's interesting is you should catch, so look at your right hand paddle blade, should come along the boat and then follow the wake, which is what you're doing. So it comes along the boat for sort of the first part of your catch to where your hand crosses your knee, which is what you're doing to there, and then it follows the wake out, which is what you're doing there. So that's good. Got quite a nice spearfish. So you can see here the right hand, the guide hand's coming across towards your head as you spear the blade in, and as a result your shaft is reasonably vertical, which is good. A lot of ski paddlers have their shaft flatter. I wonder if you're paddling a little bit long behind. Just I forgot to look at that from the side. No, so hand crossing your hip, and that's when you're exiting. So sort of looks like you're paddling a bit long, but it's actually pretty good. See the hands coming out as you cross your hip, which is good. So let's have a look at you at the higher intensity, where I start to lose control of the boat. You could probably, this relates to your elbow bend, you could probably see how you've just got that little pause before you exit. So there's just that little pause there, which is really a balance strategy. So again, it's just a tiny little thing, but if you're exiting less with your elbow and more just through your shoulder and through your trunk rotation, you'd exit a bit cleaner without that little pause. But again, it's pretty minor. again, you can see as you're paddling at higher intensities, your shoulders are up a bit higher. So look, in summary, I think you're paddling pretty well, Bolts, really, for an ocean ski paddler. Work on those few strategies to try and lengthen your catch out. So rotate a little bit more, particularly through your hips and legs. Try and maintain that rotation until the blade's immersed in the water. Potentially try and straighten your elbow a little bit more on the catch. And all of that will help just move your catch forward about by half a foot to a foot, and then rip that rotation through, which you're already doing. And then probably the exit is the other key thing. So just trying to have that elbow a little bit straighter as you're exiting. So 90 to 100 degrees. Trying to do the exit through your shoulder and through your trunk rotation to exit. And that'll help set you up with a better catch, because your exit flows into your catch. But look, really, to work those nuances, if you want to, which I'm not even sure whether I'd sort of prioritise that, but if you did want to, realistically, you're probably only going to be able to do that on flat water. So, come down to our sessions and work on that. And we'll do another video analysis next year. Hope that was helpful, mate.